All right, I think maybe I got things working now. That was a fun 30 minutes of not being able to get anything to work, but it's Monday and I'm back. Let me, I just need to do a little bit of housekeeping real quick because I started 18 different streams that kept crashing. I had this weird issue because I wasn't paying attention to what was going on with OBS. I didn't have my network drive mounted, and it kept crashing OBS. So here we go. All right, I now have everything working. I was going to send out a message on Blue Sky, but I think at this point I should just do stuff because I'm a tad bit behind in where I wanted to be. So last week I was only able to work a couple of days on my game, and I have a pretty busy week this week too. So today, unfortunately, is day 7 of my stream, and I was hoping to be done by now, but that's not the case because, as always, I decided to pick something way too complicated to actually build. But I did make a little bit of progress last week when I was off camera, and right now I'm just trying to think about what I want to focus on. We'll let Game Boy Studio do its thing. Let's open up Visual Studio. We're going to need that too because yeah, there's a lot left to do, and I've been working on, I'm trying to remember like all the stuff I was working on. I was working on a system for being able to calculate, where was that? Let me go back into, normally I would have all this stuff set up, but because it took me so long to get this going, let me see if this is the code. Here we go. Okay, this is what I was working on last week, which is a tool to generate all the permutations of sections of the map for me to convert into some sort of hex code. And as I was playing around with this, what I started just realizing is that it's just too much. There's too many of these patterns when I do a 6 by 2 breakup of the back map. And what I was trying to figure out is if I went down to 5, I would have more characters that you'd have to enter into when you're sharing a map. I should probably back up and preface it. The goal of this game is to build a tile map editor that I can that will allow you to share the maps that you create with other people on the Game Boy. So I need to break up the map into a bunch of different quadrants in order to map them to a hex number that can go to a code. So we'll go into a little bit more of the math later on. One of the things I did was I think I worked out and built out a pretty clean system now for enemies. You can't collide with them just yet. That actually wouldn't be too hard to make, but I was just going to paste this one here, and I just want to see, the goal was to redo the enemy AI in a way that when you put them on top of a platform, they simply just worked. The old system, I had this one big loop, and in the loop what wound up happening is that you had to hold on, I don't know what's going on with this song. It's just what you had to do before was that I had one big main game loop, and in that game loop it managed all the instances of the enemies, but it was really hard coded, and it didn't give me the flexibility that I needed in order to just add as many enemies. So one of the things I wanted to do is I was going to just paste a couple more of these guys down here, just because I want to see what the performance is like when we have a bunch of them. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 of them. I think 6 is honestly the maximum I'm going to have on the screen. I may actually be able, I think the biggest limitation right now is just, I can't tell. No, this is all running pretty slow. I can tell now. I'm trying to, so I guess 6 of them is going to be the most we're going to get. I may be able to go through and optimize this a little bit more, but I can already tell that they're starting to like, yeah, I wonder if there's anything else I could do to speed them up. So why don't we focus a little bit on these enemies? Now, I was trying to make a prefab here, and on update, this is all the logic that it's doing on update. And I was hoping that I could get away with... I was hoping I'd get away with being able to test the tile below and then have them turn around. What I didn't want to do, and this is what sort of happened in the beginning, was that I just didn't want them to be... I didn't want to have to define their boundaries. I think there's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there's 4 of them here now. You can't see, but one of them. I see the flickering, so one of them is just hidden behind the other. But I mean, the game is still quasi-responsive. So I was hoping I'd be able to get a little bit. I was hoping I'd be able to get some extra enemies out. Let me move one over here and see if we can just spread this out a little bit better. And it's... I have a lot of flexibility. I mean, I think the goal in this game is really going to be more of what are the concessions that I'm willing to make in order to create a tile map editor that you can share. And I think this is probably my #1 problem when it comes to this is like my #1 problem when it comes to building games, is that I like building the tools more than I like building the actual game itself. I wonder if in real time... Yeah, look at this. So this is cool. So in real time, I can increase the size of the platform, and I'm just gonna try to see if I can cut one of them off. Yeah, it's gonna be too hard to cut one of them off like that. So this logic is working. I mean, the one thing I don't have is I do not have a I don't have a really clean way to figure out frames per second. I'm just sort of visually eyeballing it right now, and I can sort of tell that this is just running slow. So let's do this. Let's delete one of these guys, and let's delete one of these, and let's go down to 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's see how slow 4 is. What happened to my Chrome? There we go. I built a little website that I'm going to try to... Maybe I'll launch it today. And I just wanted to test out whether it can tell that I'm live or not on YouTube. And it's actually pretty... It's actually pretty good. I'm seeing that there's a little bit of a problem here with Twitch, but yeah. Anyways, so let's figure out here. So, I mean, this is moving a lot better with just 4, and I'm fine with limiting it to 4. One thing I noticed is that when I move to the left, my animation, my falling animation, keeps going to the right. But so I'll have to go back and look at that. But this is basically all there is to the enemy logic. What I wanted to see was if there's anything in here I can do to maybe optimize this, but I really don't think so. I mean, we're moving to the next tile. We are getting the next meta tile. I wonder if we added a weight, but that's going to slow it down. I think this is just this is sort of the thing that I struggle with the most, is that these are just the limitations of the Game Boy, right? So I'm at the Game Boy's mercy here. There may be some other ways later on we can come up with a faster way of doing this. When this sets up, it starts its direction. And sets the movement speed. I wonder if we move them faster. Maybe the perception is that they're just moving slow. Oh, it's funny. That one's moving a lot faster. And I thought when I messed with one of them, all of them would be affected. Maybe it's just I'm not doing it on the. Let me see if I set this now to speed 2. If all of the prefabs actually update to speed 2. I think the prefab thing is something new. I don't remember using the prefab stuff before, so. It doesn't appear to do anything. So I guess each one of these are still individual instances, are they not? Let me delete all these actors real quick. And let's add a prefab. And we'll add another prefab here. And I wanted to see in the prefab if we change the speed to 1. Actually, let's just do it to the slowest. Let's see if both of them update or if they're still running at that fast speed. My guess, and maybe I should like read the instructions. My guess is that the prefab really is just a way of. Oh no, I think that they are moving slow. Let me go back to the I'm still editing the prefab. Let's make them 2 and see if they both speed up. Because ideally that's what we really want is. I would love to be able to just reuse the enemy. I don't think I could dynamically create enemies on the fly. Okay, there we go. So the prefab now is working. I guess maybe as I was copying one to the other, I broke the prefab connection. So let's go back to slow. And let's see here. Okay, so just taking care of a spammer in the chat. All right, so this is working now, and I think this is looking pretty good. So what I got to figure out is I think the most logical thing right now is to I'm gonna try to copy over the logic from the other game to see if I can get this to. Right now, the only thing that's really missing from the game logic is the ability to, as each one of these enemies gets created, they need to register themselves, and they also need to then create the counter that I use to tell that every time I kill one of them, that it actually completes the level and you open up the door. So, how can we do this? Let's start by I'm just thinking about how I want to handle this. Let's start by doing this. I'm going to close this out. Let's save. And before I do anything, I'm just going to make a copy of it. I believe it is this one here. Let me send to here. And I'm just going to move. I think, wait, what were the archive? I had 4. So this one is, whoops, V5. This one is V6. And I'm going to move all of these over to my archive folder. So now I have this, and then in here, let's go to my terminal and do git get status. Metatile actor. Okay, I think this is just... Wait. Unable to... Permission denied. Unable to index. Get status. Walker 2. Prefabs. Unable to write to file. Get object. Permission denied. That's weird. I've never seen this error before, but all right, let's ignore this for right now, and I will come back to this later. I'm not going to be doing any like stuff in here anyway, so I'm not too worried about that right now. So I want to see. I was going to try to trick GB Studio into letting me open up 2 instances of itself. Let me close this, and I think the other way was to run it as administrator. And now I want to open a project. Let's go to, I think, yeah, that was the problem I had before. The problem was that it doesn't like, when you're running as an administrator, it doesn't like to run from my network, which is fine. So I'll just copy this locally. Documents, GB, there we go. Yeah, sure, migrate, whatever, I don't care. All right, so this was the old game, and what I wanted to do is I was going to pull out some logic from this. I was just trying to see what I had here before. Live, enemy A. All right, so let's do this. Let's just create the logic right now that when we hit the player that the enemy dies. And what I was looking for, enemy collision. Let's see what these scripts do. Enemy collision. Wait for 1 second. This is a lot of the star logic. What we really just needed to do is if it's above the other enemy. So let's let's minimize this and let's open up this one. And so what we're going to do here is, I think you need to make it on interact above actor. I'm trying to see, I can't remember what. Let's do this. I don't remember how I set this up. I did it so long ago, like literally like years ago. So I just need to remember what I did here. So when we look at these enemies, they are in group 1. And when they collide, we call this enemy collision script. So why don't we do this? We're going to put this guy here. I'm going to put this one here. And we'll give this a little bit more room. Oh, I hate when Windows like does this where it, whatever. There should be enough room anyways. All right. So we're going to take the enemy. We're going to make this group 1. And we see that it's connected to the player. And so we call the enemy collision. Now I want to go back into the enemy collision script here. And what we're going to do is see if player is above enemy. All right, so let's test out if actor I wonder what this, I don't remember what this comparison is. Can I copy and paste this from here to here? That'd be great. Of course, there's no way that's actually going to work. Oh, no, wait. Paste event before. Look at that. Huh. Now I got the whole thing, which is not what I wanted. So let's delete this for a second. And then all this stuff in here. Self-activate. Wait for 1 second. Deactivate self. Yeah. All right. I'm going to put all this stuff into a group here. And then I'm just going to deactivate this entire group. I think I could do that, right? If I disable this, yeah, it disables the whole group. Sorry, let's put all these in here, and then we'll do one by one. We'll bring them back in. Because I think there's a bunch of extra logic in here from the other game that I may not have wired up yet. So let's disable this. Wait, no. I wanted to disable this event, which is this whole group. So now what we do is edit mode. I was just trying to see of what start tile X. I think this is start X. So what we're going to see is if enemy is above, I'm going to add an event here, and we're just going to do a message, and we're going to call this hit. Let's just try running this real quick, and then this should give us the basic foundation we need for testing whether we can collide with the player. Just waiting for this to build. I think while this actually builds, I'll be right back. I'm going to go get my chair. All right, now I can sit down. There's like so much garbage on my desk. So, okay, restarted this. Now the guys are here, and what I wanted to do was see that, excuse me, we can now hit them. And then the other thing I wanted to do was that if I don't hit them on the top, like right here, you see it'll shake the screen, and then the player will restart. And there's no delay to this. So this, I think, was all the code that I really needed at the moment. So let's go in and let's just update all of this stuff. And we're going to pull out, I'm going to delete this event, and I'm going to enable this event, and let's just go through piece by piece. So the first thing I wanted to do was on init, when the enemies get created, they need to, I'm just trying to see what am I doing here on this? On init, enemy set direction, set self-set movement to local self Y. If self is facing right, else. Well, this is a little bit redundant because we don't need to do this test. They're all facing to the right at the moment. Let me disable this. Whoops. Disable this event. And I want to disable this event. And let's rerun this for a second here. Oh, cool. I broke something. Let's undo. Let's rerun. Rerun. All right, how did I break everything? And if actor relative to actor failed. Oh, I know why. Because we're missing a whole bunch of stuff here. Let's disable this event. And I'm going to go back onto init, and I want to disable this, and we're going to disable this. We're just going to assume that all these, when you're doing the map editor, one of the things I got to figure out when you go to adding the enemies is how you can flip the enemy and if there's a way to increase the speed. So I have some ideas around that. I think I just really need to sit down. I think this afternoon when I'm not on the stream, I'm going to sit down. I'll go through and try to figure out all the logic for the tile map editor and just sort of try to wrap that up today and tomorrow-ish. So my goal is I have to be done with this by tomorrow. I mean, and by done I just want all the logic in place. I still need to figure out sound and some polish and all that. I have lost my enemies. So let's enable this and let's see what I broke here. All right, so that starts them. And then let's enable this event. I guess what I was doing was that I wasn't right now I have them where they're I guess it looks for the first event. It looks for the first direction, then it starts moving, and that's what happens in the initialization. The Y. All right, so all these were needed. Enable event, and let's change this to local start Y. What other variables are there on the local? I think that's it right now. So, okay, let's restart this. That start Y position is just a, I use it as a default way of just figuring out the Y and hard coding it, because the Y never changes, and I use that in order to move the guy back and forth. And this was just so I don't have to continually check for the Y position. All right, so all these things are working. That's fine. We're going to add one other. Actually, what I want to do is this. I want to abstract this out into a script, because when the level starts up, we're actually going to call this init on it, because we're going to need the tile map editor to place them down based on where they come from. So just in preparation for that, let's just do script enemy init. And let's see from the prefab here. Let me insert an event above group, and we'll move this, and this into it. And then let's copy this event. We're going to disable this, and in the script enemy init, we'll just create a group here, just because we need something in order for us to attach and paste the thing into. Let's paste after here, and now we have this whole group, and we can delete this. All right, so now the goal of what I need to do is I need to figure out, I need to abstract out the logic for initializing the player or the enemy, and then I can reuse that later on with the tile map when I need to call it. So what we're going to need to do is figure out an actor A, and we're going to call this A enemy actor, and we'll just set everything here to enemy actor, and then here we're going to set this variable to p start y. So this will be a parameter that gets passed in. So we're going to pass in a reference of a variable to this so we can set it. And then we're going to look to see if the actor is facing right. What are we going to have to do here? How did this work before? I'm just trying to see what variables it was manipulating. Let's enable this event. It was local 3 and local 4. I think this was called local 3 and local 4 on update. trying to see where I use local 4. Get meta tile local 4. All right, we're just gonna do for right now, just to keep things simple. Let's go back to here. Let's disable this event. And then on init, we'll just set this to parameter A and parameter B. Or actually, this should be the same thing. Is it? Enable else. I think this needs to be C, this needs to be B, and this needs to be C, and then I'll go back and figure out what I need to pass into this again, or what I need to label those, because I don't remember what they actually were doing. So we'll go to the enemy walker. If we run this right now, the enemy shouldn't be initializing, so it's not going to do anything. Right, yeah, we don't even see the enemies. So now let's do this. We're going to call script, and we're going to do enemy init, and we're going to pass in the start Y. We're going to pass in local 1 and local 2. And now on update, local 3, local 4, local 2. I think I have all this sort of messed up at the moment here. Because local 2... Actually, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to disable this for 1 second. And I'm going to, for some reason, enable event. For some reason, the variables... the enable else. For some reason, the variables changed name, and I need to go figure out what these are now. So let's do, let me go see if I can just figure this out piece by piece. So we go in here, we move next. This is the move tile to, this is direction, I believe. So this should be L direction. And then 4 should be L next tile. And this should be L next tile ID. And let's just be more descriptive here. Next tile X. So I'm going to rerun this and just make sure this is working, and then we can now pass these variables in. No such file. Tools version. What? It's just, what just happened here? It's weird, like sometimes it just like fails when it tries to build, but in the past I was like undoing everything and trying to figure it out, but now I've just learned that sometimes the tool just sort of craps out. I don't know if it's because I'm running this off of a network drive or not. All right, so now when we come here, let's enable this event, and we are going to pass in the direction and the next tile X. Let's disable this. And then we want to make this direction next tile X. P direction next tile X. And let's see if this will initialize correctly now. Negative, Ghost Rider. Did not work. Let me try it this way. Let me go back to here. Because these guys might not actually... No, they have it. They're being updated correctly. So let's go here. I'm going to delete this again. And let's enable this event. And I'm going to copy this event out. Because I just want to get this is the actor, this is the speed, this is the start Y position, the L direction, and the L next X. Right? And let's make sure that this works. What I'm trying to figure out is that for some reason when I moved everything into its own script, I guess I wasn't passing the right variables. So if I can just confirm that this works now that I fixed the names of the variables locally inside of the enemy prefab, I can now copy this group. And we're going to go into here and we're going to delete this. We're going to create a new group. And then we're just going to use that group as a way to pass the stuff after. And then let's delete this. So we're going to do variable A, variable B, and now the real question was, let's see the mappings here. Because this is A, this is B, this is C, and this is B, and this is C. So here we're going to do C, we're going to do B, and we're going to do C. And then let's just double check that we've mapped everything over correctly. Variable A, we have the player facing right, variable B, variable C. We set the movement, and we set variable A to tile Y. It should be tile Y for actor. This should be actor A. This should be actor A. I'm just trying to make sure there isn't anything else that I'm missing here. So now, if we go back to our prefab, let's hide this event, and we're going to call script. And we're going to call the enemy init. We are going to pass in itself. We are going to set enemy A to L start X, right? That was the first variable we have here, L start X. Then we're going to set this to L direction, which is now the next one, L direction. The next one's L next X. L next X. And now we should be able to disable this group, and then this will pass in the correct variables. Let's see if this guy reinitializes himself correctly. That did not work as expected. So let me see. What is causing the problem here? Passing this, and passing this. So let's see here. Let's go into... I'm just trying to think of how I want to debug this. When we go into the enemy init, this should set the actor's speed to 1/4. Variable A should be the actor A's tile Y, right? Enable event. Right, this goes to tile Y. Walker. L direction So this is 1, 1, negative 1, 0. And this is 1, 1, negative 1, 0. Variable CBD. Let's disable this and rerun it and see if that one thing was what was messing it up. I think the speed is... I mean, they should at least fix the speed, but... Let's see. Alright. So, what's happening is that we are not... Actually, let me rerun this, and... It doesn't look like this is setting the actual variables, so... And I don't know if that's just because it's a local thing or not. How do I get rid of this build log? All. This is so weird. Let's try something different. I'm going to change the direction to left, and I want to see if this actually has any impact on it, just to see if these variables are being passed correctly. All right, well, one of them just decided to completely and utterly disappear. Actor Y. We set the actor speed. Then here we set the variable A to tile Y. So let's do this. I'm going to delete this guy here. And we're going to see, I want to see this L start Y, if this actually is being set to the right location. So when we come here, let's add a breakpoint right here. And then we're going to take a look at what this value is being set to. And then, because if that value doesn't exist, then if this start Y value doesn't exist, it doesn't know where to look at the next tile. So let's see here. So now we have, what we have to do is we have to find the local for, this is S, this is the actor 1 local 0, which should be this, and what we want to see is that he's at 13, right? All right, he's at 13. So that's correct. All right, so now he's magically working. All right, I'll take that, I guess. So let's create a new prefab and see if it inherits this correctly. All right, that's set, and I don't know, That's interesting. I wonder why two of them becomes the problem. The only thing I could think of is that maybe sorry, I had to sneeze. Maybe it's the local variables are screwing it up. I'm just looking here. Get meta tile. Start Y. All right, let's do this. There's a little bit of cleanup that I want to do. When when this guy starts up, I want to set this variable, which I'm just going to call right now. Let's just do this. We're going to call this a enemy actor. This is good. We know that this works. And we know this is good. We know that this works. In fact, let me just set the speed to 2. We're just going to go through each one of these commands and debug this bit by bit and see what happens. All right, so he is good. Let's set this speed now back to slow, and we're going to close this. So now variable A is going to be this tile Y. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to change this to equal math add. I want to take tile Y and I want to make this 1. And I'm going to name this parameter tile Y. And then back on the prefab, what I'm going to do is that there's a place here where I was taking this L start Y and adding 1 to it. I'm just going to remove this. And if enemy walker L start Y. I don't know if this is going to break everything. I might just revert this and come back to this another time. Interesting. I think there's something that's going on where this should actually be property tile actor tile Y, and this should be property tile Y. And this is the start, so we're going to get this position start Y and tile Y. All right. The reason I'm trying to do this is that I don't want to be doing, I'm doing a calculation where I take the actor's position and I subtract 1 from the Y in order to get the tile that he's standing on. And I use that to figure out whether I'm on the base or not. But what I didn't want to do is that on every frame, I was actually just adding 1 to it and doing a calculation that didn't need to happen. So that works and that works. Now, the real question is, why does this break when I create a new prefab? Oh, well, first off, this prefab is facing down, so that's a problem. But I think the init's supposed to honestly make them go right. But I think somewhere along the lines there's some variables getting crossed here. Like, let's take a look here. We have this S1A underscore local. Let me see if any of these come up. Local 4, local 3, local 0. So this is 14, right? And he should be starting at, this is 13, so this is setting up to 14, so great. So now this local 1, local 1, A1 should be 14. And what we're going to look for is local 1, A2. That's interesting. Why isn't there, maybe the other actor hasn't been initialized yet? Now local 1A2, change this to 14. So here's my theory. My theory is that the prefabs all share the same variables. Oh no, now they're working. All right, I'm just going crazy, that's all. Let's do this. Let's, we'll keep all this as is. I'm going to go into the init script. I'm going to get rid of this breakpoint, and maybe I did fix it and I just wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. Hold on a second. All right, they're actually working now. So, all right, I was just fixing my monitor so I could see the preview of the stream. Okay, so they're working now. I wonder if I created a new prefab and just put this guy here, if that would make a difference. It's tough. I have a really tough time trying to wrap my head around the way the variables get passed around, just because of the way that this system is sort of set up. All right, so he moves and we're good to go. Okay, so now it appears that the prefabs are working correctly. What I want to do is go into this prefab, and I'm going to delete this because we no longer need it, and we're now using this initialization. So let me just I want to go like click on them and see that, okay, it is actually keeping things up to date. We'll run this one more time. And then what we're going to do is I want to pass in the direction. And then that'll be the last thing we need to do to configure it. And then we'll start going into the scoring stuff. All right. So now that this works, let me save real quick. So we're going to call this variable, this was going to be p direction, and this is going to be p next x, right? Next tile x, p next tile x. We will rerun this just to make sure I didn't break anything. All right, they are now working correctly. So here what I wanted to do is pass in a new thing. So let's do this, and we're going to add a new event before, and we're going to call this set actor direction. And now the real question is, if we set this to a number, what happens? I don't know what the direction values map to. I'm assuming it's a constant or some sort, that there's like a 0, 1, 2. So let's set this to 1 and see what happens. That doesn't do anything. All right. I think I have a better idea of how to do this. Let me delete this real quick. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a new condition. Insert event before. If actor is facing direction. No, wait, we don't want that. We want insert event before. If variable. Compare with value. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the direction and we're going to use this to figure out whether we should flip him left or right. So what we want to look for is this P direction. And if P direction equals 1, we're going to set actor direction equal to the right, and else we're going to set actor direction to the left. Let's make sure we set this to the right actor. And here we're going to, I just want to rename this, and we're going to call set actor direction. And now if we go into the prefab, this direction variable is going to come in. What we can do, you know what I want to do? I want to actually change this a little bit. I'm trying to think of how. I'm just trying to think about if I'm calling this from the main loop, how are we going to know that there are, how are we going to, like, all right, the problem I'm trying to think about in my head how to articulate is that right now this script works because we're passing in variables directly off of the actor. We're not passing them anywhere else. I think my approach here is wrong, and I'm not really sure how to fix it just yet, but let me see. This, I think right now what's going to happen is that this is going to default and it's going to set everyone to the left. Excuse me. Or do nothing at all. Cool. I don't know. We're going to have to come back. I'm going to have to come back to the script because there's some stuff in here that's disable event. What really needs to happen is that when the enemies get created, they all need to disable themselves, and then we call the initialization on the startup of the map. And then we'll have to get the tile X and Y later on. Let me take a look at how that would actually work. So let's go back into here. We have our initial setup, attach script to be, configure the editor. And then we have the enemy init and game loop. So why don't we do this here? We're going to do enemy, or we're actually going to do call script. And we're going to call the enemy init, and we're going to pass it in the actor, right? This is what? Enemy walker, enemy walker. I'm not sure which enemy walker this is, but we'll get to that later. I don't know if I can rename these and if it breaks the connection back to the prefab, so we'll take a look at that later. So here's the problem. The problem is that these variables or these properties, these are all properties. These are not defined on the actual. Unless these are globals, these are locals. Okay, so what I think is going to have to happen is that I'm going to have to just start making a decision that we have a fixed number of enemies. The initialization goes through and it sees where the enemies need to be spawned, and then it does that. But the enemies, I think I've been trying to keep the enemy variables localized, so I didn't have to just create all these like hard-coded global variables. But I don't think there's any other way around it. The only other way I could think of doing it is that if we set these to a global, like temporary variable for each of these values, and then we have the trying to think, because there's no way to set a property on an actor, right? Set variable to value. Yeah, we don't have access to the variables for the player. But what I'm thinking is that we could just simplify this a little bit more. So let's delete this for a second. And let's see if we can come up with a sort of hacky solution here. We're going to do, I'm just going to come up with variable 12, variable 13, and variable 14. And in fact, I don't even want this to be a variable. I actually want this to be a number, and we're going to set the direction to 1. And then what we need to do on the actor is that, let's disable this for a second. On update, we had this L direction. So let's go and set the global variable. We're going to go in here. We're going to call, oh no, wait, sorry, I had it on this. We're going to call this, this is a global enemy oh no, shoot. How am I going to pass in a variable? You know what? I wonder if there's something. I wonder if there's another way we can do this. I wonder if we can do add, insert an event before. There we go. No, wait, no. Shoot. Delete this and delete this. I want to see, I feel like there's an actor. I thought there was like something in the actor where you can start, launch projectile, player launch projectile. I thought there was a way to reinitialize the actor. Push actor away, position. Show actor, hide actor. Deactivate actor, activate actor. I'm kind of curious if I want to see if I can just disable these actors on init. Let's insert an event before disable. We'll deactivate the actor for itself. And then what I wanted to see was, I'm kind of curious if that doesn't make any sense. What I was trying to figure out is that if we re-enable the actor, does it recall it's on init? And I don't think that's how it actually works. This deactivates the actor. This activates the actor. But I think that's, I don't know. I wonder if when you call the activate enemy walker, I wonder if when you call that, it, I don't think it does anything, honestly. Because here, if we come here, let's do this. Let's disable this. And we'll run this. They're not visible. Why are they no longer visible? on. I want to undo a bunch of this stuff real quick. Let me rerun this and see if these are... The problem I'm trying to avoid is that I just really don't want to have all of this stuff like hard-coded, like all these enemies hard-coded, but there's no way to pass, like, whatever the process is that's happening under the hood to set up the local variables for each of the actors is not accessible outside of that thing. This is becoming a bit of a time sink. Let me disable that. Let's run this and see if this works. It's funny, like I wake up in the morning, I'm like, okay, I got this solid plan. I know exactly what I'm going to do. It's going to take me this amount of time. And then just 100% incorrect. It just constantly breaks on me. And then nothing works. And then I wind up stuck in this like circle where I can't figure out, anything. All right. Let's think through these approaches here. What I'm trying to think through is if we create a prefab, can we set it to a global variable? Or what I think might actually need to happen is that I think we just need to move an enemy in a particular direction to get the ball rolling, and then let the rest of the update script handle itself. And then in that case, what we're going to do is instead of setting the start Y and the next tile position Y, what we'll do is when we set that initial direction to move, that will trigger something. Let me go back into this enemy init script for a second. Disable event. All right, here's what we're going to try to figure out right now. We're going to try to figure out if we can we get the enemy to start moving and behaving on its own simply with the on update and having it reconfigure itself based on this on update. So they will not display at all. And what I can't remember was that, was there something in this enemy init script that made them visible? I don't think I'm doing anything here to make them invisible. Let me see if I did anything in here for the actors. Store player, deactivate a selector, which is the selector. Move, fade, configure editor. All right, let's go back and do this a whole other way. All right, we're gonna go to the prefab here. We're going to disable this event, and I just want to see if I can see these enemies and why they're not visible. It may have something to do with the fact that I'm not setting the direction. Nope. There we go. Why? Huh. Collision group. I guess you can't by default set the prefab's direction. So now that we have the direction, this is going to work. And all right, now we'll at least see our guys. Then I want to go back into the init. Let's enable this event. And then I just want to see what happens. I think they're gonna screw up because they don't have a correct Y position, or they're just gonna keep walking straight and not find the end of the platform. Or do nothing at all. I guess that's also an option, huh? Since direction is set to... So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this enemy init. We're going to see if the actor is facing right. We're going to set these variables accordingly. So let's copy this event. We're going to go here. And then, so I'm going to add an additional condition that decides what direction the player is moving and then sets up the variables for the rest of this scene so that it's all self-contained. So let's insert this event before. Whoops. Sorry, I want to paste this event before. And the variables we're looking for are going to be direction. L direction. And these are going to be L next tile X, I think. Right? L next tile X. All right. So what's going to happen is that at the beginning of the frame, we're going to test which direction it is. We're then going to move the enemy one tile over, and then we're going to watch them run completely and utterly off the screen. So if the enemy walker all right, I think we actually have a lot of this logic. What I need to do is just reverse the way that it's happening. So we don't have the start ly. So let me go back to doing this again. Well, actually, wait, I think I know what I need to do. I'm going to revert this so that we have this condition back here. Let's hide this for a second. And now we're going to do a property plus maths add one tile 1. I'm just going through and seeing if there's anything else in here that I need to figure out. We're using the regular tile Y. Fine. Flipping the enemy. Tile Y, fine. All right, let's try running this and see what happens. All right, well, they go one tile at least. This guy's a little bit broken. So let's see what is actually happening here. So if tile is facing right, we're going to set the direction to 1 and the next tile X to 1. If the direction is -1, we're going to set it to this. Now, we move to the next tile, enemy walker X, Y direction. Next tile X, L direction. Wonder what happens if I disable this real quick. No, wait, I didn't want to disable the else. I wanted to disable the entire event and run it. What I'm trying to think about here is whether... Let's try doing this as, instead of this direction, let's do it as a number, and let's do it as 1. And then we're going to get this tile position, instead of here, we're going to do it as a number. Oops. We're going to use this as a number, and we're going to set it to 1. So I want to see if I can get like one initial movement out of him, and then see if the rest of the conditional stuff will take over from there. Does not like that idea. All right, so let's undo this. And then this one again doesn't like... This one doesn't really like going more than one tile. Local 3, local 1, negative 1, 1, 1. I think the problem is that this is just flipping it constantly. Set this to 1, set this to 1. If the direction is to the left, then we move to the next tile. I'm just trying to think through what is the easiest way to manage the state of this enemy. All right, we disable this. Oh, whoops, no, disable this else. Enable else. We're going to disable this event. And then I'm going to go back to the on init. And we're going to re-enable this event. I just want to see if this initialization actually works. So I wonder if I have, I'm going to try to undo a lot of stuff. I don't know how much undo history I have here. I'm just going to keep hitting undo until I see something that I like. I don't even know if it's undoing at this point. I might just have to revert back to a previous, the previous version that I backed up before we started. So now let's enable this event. Let's run this and see if this actually does anything. All right, whew, at least they're working now. All right, so let's go through this init script and let's figure out what I actually need to do in order to what I need to do in order to make this more self-sufficient. So we're setting the actor So let's disable this for a second and see if it works without us manually setting the actor position. This was not what I planned on actually focusing on today. This is actually taking way more time than I thought it was going to, but this will actually pay off in the end because we're going to need to figure this out at some point. So now we can disable this too, because I'll just have I'll have it globally deal with the volume, the animation speed. So that should just be set by default anyways. Let's see. I just want to see what the value is that they walk fast. Yeah, okay. So they're walking fast. So let's go into the enemy walker. And we're just going to set the movement speed to 1/4. There we go. Now, back here. This variable A, and if the actor is facing right, this stuff. So let's see, what can we now simplify? So I'm going to remove this actor Y plus 1. Now this is going to break the collision detection under the platform, but we're going to go back to every frame. It's just going, or every frame is just going to take its position, add 1, and we're just going to call it a day. You can see they walk off the stage, right? So if we come back to their logic and we go to on update, to get the next meta tile at the position, what we're going to do is we're going to take the property of tile Y, and we're going to do some maths here. We're going to add 1. So that should fix it, and that would remove now that removes the requirement for us to have this variable for the Y. I was hoping to be able to like just have a single variable for this and not have to do this addition every frame, but that. Oh, and it doesn't seem to like it when you do it this way, huh? Oh, I know why. Well, no, this should... This should always be on init. What were we setting the value to? Variable A, tile Y. This is really weird, but I think I wasn't expecting this to be this difficult. So the problem I'm dealing with right now is that I can't externally set the properties of a actor, or at least the local variables of an actor externally. So when I want the tile map to instantiate these enemies, they're going to need to pass in information, and I'm trying to figure this out right now because this wound up becoming a little bit of a rabbit hole. Because this should have been a pretty simple solution, but now it's becoming a huge architectural decision I have to figure out when it comes to how the tile map is going to work and how it's going to instantiate these. Let me rerun this. This is just going to break because this isn't wired up correctly. What I'm interested in is, I don't understand why the Y plus 1 is making him only go 1. Oh my god, excuse me. Well, burpee this morning. I don't understand why doing this breaks things. Test if next tile is empty. If L, next tile ID is empty. But this should... I think I remember what was going on here before. I think there's a bug in GB Studio that for some reason wasn't letting me do this. So let me insert this event before. We're going to set the set a variable to a value, and we're going to set this variable to ly start 1 is going to equal math property enemy tile y plus 1. Then we're going to set this to a variable of l start y. Let's remove this. And now I bet you that's going to work, because I don't know what was going on. I don't know what this bug is in GB Studio, but I noticed it before, and I think that's why I had to do some math ahead of time. There we go. See, this is the problem. And so this is the bug that I'm trying to deal with right now, and I don't understand whether maybe it's because I'm using one of the alpha builds of GB Studio. But if I remove this variable here where I set the current y position plus 1, we'll just disable this event. As you can see, if I go here and I go to property, tile y, and I make this addition, and then I add 1 to it, which is literally the same exact thing we were doing right there, this won't work. And it won't be able to tell the position below the enemy's actor. But it works fine for X for some reason. See, now they're all like screwed up as they can't figure out how to go forward anymore. So I don't know what the cause of this is, but if we do this, we enable this event, and then instead of us doing it right here while we're getting the tile, and we set it ahead of time, and we go back to this property, we'll set this back to a variable. We're going to move this back to L start Y, and we're going to remove this. Everything works fine. Assuming it builds. All right, there we go. So, all right. Good news is that at least now on this init script, we've been able to remove this now, right? Let's disable this event. And now they're walking, and so what I'm doing, basically at this point, what I'm doing is not only did I'm trying to get around that error that I just found, or that bug inside of GB Studio for adding the Y position, what I'm trying to do now is just strip out all of the variables that I had to set initially in order for this to work, and making it where the enemy will automatically figure out its own state, what it needs to do next, based on only doing an update. Because at that point, once it's isolated to that there's no initialization for the enemy whatsoever, then I can use the tile map editor to place an enemy down, and wherever we place it down, it's just going to pick up and start moving, just as it was before. And if we place an enemy down and we flip its direction, it'll inherently see that direction change and figure it out from there. So let's do this. I'm going to go to on init, and I'm going to disable this entire script right now. And let's see if it just works, because then the last thing we'll need to do is set there's an offset that I use to calculate the next tile, and I will just need to come up with a way to set that up front. All right, so you see how they're not moving at all? The reason for this is that they are not being forced into walking, because right now what happens is that if we're faced right or left, we're not setting any variables. But in order for it to walk, we need to know what the next tile X is and what the direction is. So let me go back to my init here, and I'm going to copy this again. So let's copy this event. Let's go back here. We're going to delete this, and we're going to paste this event before. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set the direction and the next tile X, direction, and next tile X. So now what's going to happen is that when we start up the level, or when we start up, we're going to, on the first frame, we're going to see which direction we're facing, and we're going to set the variables for what direction they should face. And then after that, everything will work fine. Now, the thing that I don't like about this is that we're actually like duplicating a lot of logic. And I'll have to think back later on if there's a way to simplify this. Because what I really didn't want to be doing is that now I have to reset this direction every single time. So let me just rename this. Set direction variable. Or actually we're going to do, set direction dir var based on current direction. I cannot see that. For some reason, my eyes are blurry. Maybe I need new glasses. All right. So we're going to set the direction var based on the current direction. Then we're going to move to the next tile. And then we're going to now update insert event after calculate next Y tile below the actor. Then we're going to get the meta tile at position, and then we're going to test if the tile is empty. And then if not, we're going to flip him the other way. So what we can actually do now is that we can actually get rid of this, disable this, and disable this. And we can disable this, and disable this, and now try running it. But the reason why I'm disabling this direction, this next tile X, in this old condition is because we're already doing this calculation at the beginning of the frame, so there's no need to redo it over again. It's just adding overhead. So I was correct in my theory. So let's delete this, let's delete this, and let's delete this, and we'll delete this. Okay, so now we've reduced some of the repetition that's happening. What I really want to figure out is this set self position to. Oh, okay, I remember what this is doing now. This, let me rename this event. We're going to flip sprite based on left position. This is sort of important because let me actually just rename this, copy this, and here we're going to rename this. I can't see, so out of my way. Rename on right. Oops, I misspelled that. All right, the reason for this, what's actually happening now, is that whenever we flip the enemy, we need to offset it by one tile if it's going to the left, because the anchor point is in the bottom left. So it always works fine if you're going to the right, but if you're going to the left, we have to subtract one. And you can see here, we subtract one, we add one based on that. All right, I think this is actually much better now. We do our tests, we set the direction, we move to the next tile. Now, I wonder if... we move this to the bottom, if that would make things also work correctly. I think there's just going to be an issue here that if we're trying to move to the next tile and we flip into the left and we're on the edge of the we're on the edge. Oh no, look, now they hate that idea. Not a fan. No me gusta. All right. All right, I think this is as good as we're going to get. The real test now is if we, I want to start it this way. Okay, first let's do this. Sorry, my head's like a little all over the place. I'm going to delete this event. We now have a working on update. Now, if we come here and we go back to this enemy init stuff, let's delete this. We don't even need this script anymore. Enemy, we delete this script. Before I go any further, let's just make sure deleting that didn't screw up something I wasn't paying attention to. All right, so these are working well. We'll stop this. And now what I wanted to show was, let's say we're going to emulate right now. Let me just do a comment. And we're going to rename this to do wire up when level editor is working. Testing, setting up enemy, and starting its movement. And then what we're going to do is we're going to, before we even do that, here's what I want to do. I want to move these guys off screen. And when they initialize, we're going to disable we're going to deactivate this actor. And in fact, just to make sure that this is working, we're going to put this here. And the reason for this is that we're going to always have the same number of actors. We just want to make sure that the tile map editor is responsible for putting them down and then reactivating them. So as you can see, they're completely deactivated. All right, so now that we have the enemies deactivated, we can safely move them off screen and they're not using up any resource power or processing power, I guess. And now on our tile map editor, what we're going to do is we're going to set an actor position. I want to set the actor's position to right here, which is 413. Whoops, I want to set the, not the player, I want to set the enemy walker to 413. And then we're going to insert event after, set actor direction to the right. We'll make this the enemy walker. And then the last thing we're going to do is activate the actor here. So what we're doing is we're moving the enemy actor to the right position. We're telling it the direction to start in, and then we're going to activated, which should make it walk. So we should see one of these enemies now show up on the initial platform. Perfect. See? And then that will in essence simulate setting this up. Now, what we're going to do is I'm just going to copy this event. I am going to delete these guys, because now what we want to do is now we want to make the enemy init script, which I probably shouldn't have deleted, but it's fine. We'll just do it all over again. So this is script. Oops, does not let me. Script enemy init. And we're going to make a new group just so that I can, I don't know, it's doing it this way. I just need to paste this after. Let's delete this. Delete events. All right, so what we're going to do here, we can delete this too, is we want to set this to a variable and a variable. So this is going to be parameter start X, parameter start Y. And we'll do this direction in a minute, and then we're going to set this to the actor that we're passing in. I don't know what this actor D is. Actor A. There we go. Okay. So we're going to call this actor enemy actor. Yeah, we'll just do this as enemy. I don't know why I keep writing actor at the end of it. I'm trying to do this like these prefixes, I guess, to the variable name, so I can tell whether it's an actor, whether it's a parameter, whether it's a global variable or whatnot. So all this works now. We come here, and what we're going to do is we're going to call script. We want to call script, and we're going to call enemy init, and we're going to pass it in a number, and a reference to an enemy, and we're going to start this at what are we starting this at 413. All right. So at this point now we can see that the enemy is being placed. We're using this init script, and this is good. What I want to do next is I want to pass in the actual direction. So let's create a new condition here. We're going to create a paste an event before. Whoops, no, I didn't want to paste it. What we're going to do is, wait a minute, what's going on here? Why is this here? Delete this. We're going to create a if variable, compare variable with value. I think I have C action C. Right or left? I think I'm going to use these constants for right and left. And what we're going to do is, in this condition, we're going to now test the P start direction. And we're going to test this as a constant. And we're going to look for constant right. And then we're going to set actor direction to the right. We'll make this the enemy. In the else, we're going to set actor direction. Actually, I have an idea of how I want to do this. I want to actually set it to the left by default. What we're going to do is we're always going to check. Wait, sorry, let me rephrase that. I want to set the actor to the right by default. So what we're going to do is that if we call the init and we pass in a value that isn't left, it's always just going to default to the right. Let's set this to enemy And let's delete this here. Whoops. Let's just delete this. We don't need this anymore. And then we'll activate it. So now, if we go back to here, you'll see that we have this enemy init. We're going to set its positions, and we're going to set its start position. So like if I just gave this like a number 5 or something, it's going to automatically go to the right. Perfect. So now the real test is that if we set this to a constant and we set it to the left, will the enemy go to the left? And I have a feeling that what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to shift the start position over by 1 just to make sure it was when he flips. That actually seemed to work. What didn't happen though is that you can actually see it when he starts up, is that he doesn't start on this tile. He technically starts on this tile. See? So what we're going to do is on this enemy init, if we're set to the left, we are going to insert an event after, set actor position, and we want it to be, let's do some maths. We'll do add. Actually, we're going to do subtract. Subtract. We want the property of tile X minus Y, and here we're going to set the property of tile Y. And we want to set this to enemy. And now what'll happen is that the enemy should start on the far left part of that platform, because we're flipping him and moving him backwards 1 tile in order to account. Oops, or it just won't work at all. Enemy, tile Y, tile. This is player. Should be tile X. And this should be tile. I hate that it does that. Like it should only, like the UI should just limit you to, if you're in a script like this, whatever actor is being passed in, you should only be able to get those properties. I hate that like the player is global, therefore it's always an issue, although that didn't do anything either. So let me disable this for a second. Let me do this. Let's do math add 1. What I want to see is I might just set I might use a variable as a flag, or as a offset, like I'm doing in the actual enemy anyways. All right, so what I want to do is we're going to set this to a variable. Actually, you know what? Why don't we just do it this way? Why don't we just paste event before? Whoops. Paste event before. Let me delete this, and we're just going to move this down to the else. Here we're going to remove this, and we're just going to set the X and Y position. Oh, you know what? I know how to do it. Why don't we do it this way? We'll move it out of here. What we're going to do is we're testing the condition to see if we're left. Instead of doing this here, we're going to delete this, and we're going to add a variable, insert after. We're going to set variable to value. So if we're going to do the left, what we're going to do is we're actually going to subtract. Let's actually, we can do it this way. Let me delete this. We'll set a event before, decrement by 1, and we're going to decrement or decrease the start X position by 1, which will account for the offset. Let's see if this works. And then what we do at the end of it is that we set the position. We're calculating how we want to set the direction, then we calculate the position, then we set the position, and then we're off to the races. Okay. Now, why did that happen? Insert event before, increment by 1. Let me disable this and see if we needed to increment it by 1, but that doesn't make any sense. Or I could just like go back to the actual code and see how I'm doing it before, but I'm feeling a bit lazy. Nope, that wasn't it. What my gut's telling me is that because of the way that we're calculating the position, and the update function is looking at the current position and just moving blindly. If we start at 0, it's not actually testing to see whether the next platform needs to be we're not testing to see if the next platform actually is empty and flipping him around. So like here, you'll see if we go back to this increment, we'll disable this. We'll enable this. And you'll see it's just going to blindly move to the left. And I think what we need to do is we actually need to, before we move the player, I think I just got to fix the update. We need to actually test if the tile next to it is correct. All right, so that's fine. So let's save this right now. Let me delete this. And now we have the basic logic in place to initialize a enemy from a scene. So now we have this guy here. So what we need to do now is we need to take into account what happens if the enemy is moving. So what we want to do is we want to calculate the next tile below the actor. Set direction. So theoretically what should happen is that we need to get this to work where if we have the move next tile should go to the bottom here. And all of this calculation stuff should figure out what is the next step we're doing, right? So we're going to, all right, what we're going to do is we'll correct this now. And let's just double check that. Oh, I somehow lost my mouse. There we go. Let me run this. I think by moving the move to the bottom of this call stack, it's not actually going to work. I think we tested this earlier. And now we just need to modify this code to make it work. So you see something happens here where it gets to the end, and I don't know why. What we probably need to do is we are now setting the L direction, the Y direction, calculate the next tile below the actor. We should get the position. For 1 second, I'm just going to disable this and see what happens and see if that is what's causing it to loop at the end of the platform. Well, that actually just makes sure that it doesn't even move. Calculate next Y. So, all right, so let's enable this event. We're going to calculate the direction. We're then going to calculate the position. We're going to see if the tile is empty. And then we're going to move to the next tile. Excuse me, in my head, this all seems to work. Like, this is how it should work. So let's see what happens when we take movement out of the equation. What I'm looking to see is that it should be at the end of the platform and just facing right, because we're setting it to the left here. If I move this over 1 to 5 and now run it, you see how he's at the left. So, okay. So the logic is working right now correctly. The correct thing is that if we put the enemy on the end of a platform and he's facing the left, he should automatically just flip to the right. And now we need to make him move. So now going back into our prefab, let's see why moving wasn't working. Let's enable this event. So we're going to take the enemy walker, we're going to take the X position, we're going to take the Y position and the direction and the next direction. Okay, the reason is that we are not recalculating the direction based on I'm just thinking through this all. This direction is not getting reset correctly, because what's happening now is that we're now testing ahead of time, and I think we need to go back in and add in the add in this logic. Set direction based on. So we copy this if we're going to the right. We would paste this below. Actually, what we could do is we could technically use this to calculate what the next position should be. This is, I think this part's what's messing it up, is that it gets to the end and it just sort of flips and it doesn't know how to correct itself here, because it doesn't know where to go next. But I'm just trying to think through if there's a, I can't, like, I just cannot wrap my head around these visual, like, coding languages. Like, it's just not how my brain works. All right, so we started out and we look at the current direction the player is facing. We get the direction and we get what we believe is going to be the next tile. And this is based on right. So if we're going to the right, the next direction is going to be one tile over, and the direction is always going to be 1, but you want to move forward. If it's the opposite, the direction is going to be -1, and the next tile is going to be 0. And this next tile X is an offset that we use. So remember, if we're going to the left, we're actually moving him over 1, so we don't need to add an addition to it. Then we need to calculate the next Y tile below the actor. So Y, X, Y, and we're adding this. Fine, this works. Then I think what we need to do is I think we need to go back to adding in the flipping logic in here, because it's going to use this direction. I think we just need to do this. So if the actor, flip the actor to the left, and we're going to set the variable to -1, and we're going to copy this, and if we need to go to the right, we're just going to paste this after, and we're going to set the direction to 1. Let's see if resetting this direction based on a flip fixes the problem where the enemy gets to the bottom, or the end of the platform, it doesn't turn around. Okay, that was it. I took it out originally. I took out this additional stuff here for recorrecting the direction based on, I thought it was redundant, but technically this is only going to get called when we actually like hit the end of a platform. So now I think this is a lot better. We set the direction based on the initial variable. We set the direction variable based on the initial direction at the top of the frame. We calculate what the next Y is below the actor. We get the tile, and then we test if the tile is empty. If the tile is empty, we flip them, and then we move to the next tile at the very end. So now we are all good to go, and this works. Now, to prove that this works, what we can do is we can copy this event. We can paste this event after. We're going to set it to the next enemy walker, and we're now going to put this enemy here at 1714. 1714, whoops, 14. And we're going to set this actor's direction to the right. Now, what should happen is that the actor should immediately flip back over and then just go to the left. I'm just trying to test out the both sides of a platform and making sure that we account for the flip, offset, and the direction it needs to take. And it seems to be working fine. In fact, we can actually test this a little bit better if we move it to 713. There we go. And you see that they now both correctly cross paths with each other. All right, so that was a little longer than I had anticipated. Actually, let me go back into this. I want to see if the collision stuff is still there, and then we'll just clean that up. All right, let's... All right, okay, I have not enabled any sort of collision on top of them yet to kill them. So, all right, we're gonna save this, and we're gonna go back to our prefab. And what we're gonna do here is on hit, we're gonna start adding in the logic. Let me enable this event. I'm gonna go through all this old logic. Oh, you know what? I know what I need to do first. Let me disable this real quick. When we call the enemy init script, we need to, at the very end here, or actually we'll do insert event before. We're gonna need to set a variable. Or actually, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna increment it. We're going to insert an event before, increment by 1, and we're going to do a global. Let's do this. We're going to rename, we'll rename this variable 12. We're going to name this v total enemies. And so what's going to happen is that now as we start the game, we're going to, every time an enemy is initialized, we're going to increase it by 1. And while we wait for this compile, once it compiles, I'll show you how I use the new debugger to sort of find the variable and watch this variable's value. So if we get rid of this here, I can now look and see we have total enemies equals 2. And in fact, what we could do is we could put a breakpoint here, and each time the enemy gets initialized, we'll see that increment. So it'll start at 1, and then it'll go to 2. So we should be able to see the total enemies is at 1. We do it again, and it's now at 2. And now we have both of our enemies on the screen. Now we're going to remove this, and what I want to figure out is let's go back now into our enemy prefab, and we're going to start re-enabling some of this stuff. So we don't need to worry about this. Delete event. We're now going to decrease the total enemies by 1. Disable collisions. So we're going to disable the collisions. Set animation state to death. All right, we'll set this to death. We're going to make the player bounce. We're now going to set the position. Let me disable this for a second. I think this has to do with the disable, activate self, disable. Wait for 1 second, and deactivate self, disable. This is logic for whenever you kill an enemy, a little like star pops up. So I just need to. I don't need to worry about that right now. What I want to see is that if we jump on the head of an enemy, it should bounce the player up. It should set the enemies. I knew that was going to happen. He's still moving. So what we need to do is we need to insert an event before. We are going to tell this thing to move. Let's see if move cancel works. I think what I am going to have to do is I'm going to have to put a variable like if it's alive or not. And then we'll just do on the update, if it's alive, we'll only do the update then. And we'll just flip that flag. Yeah, okay, that's what needs to happen. So let's do this. Let's delete this event. So when we, let's set insert an event before, we're going to set variable, set a flag, set it to false. And we're going to make this variable, we'll just do this local one because I don't think this is being used by anything at the moment. We're going to call this local alive, and we're going to set this to false. On update, insert event before, if variable, if a variable is true, we are going to move all of this stuff inside of it. So basically what we're doing is we're creating a condition. Let me disable the else here. We're creating a condition where if the alive value is true, we're going to move. Now we have to make sure that before we do this, we need to set this alive value here. So let's do insert event before, set variable to true, and we're going to set this to the interesting. I don't have an easy way of doing this. Shoot. Again, I'm back at this problem where I can't change a property of an actor externally. You know what I think we're going to do? I think we're going to do this a whole different way. Let's delete this. I think that what we're going to do is we're going to use the down as the death animation. Let's go into the sprites for a second, and let's find our enemy walker, and let's look at down. And I'm going to set this to down. Let me set it to the right palette. And now, when we come back here to our game world, we'll select our enemy walker, and we're going to, instead of, actually, let's do this. Let's insert an event before. We're going to make a group. And we're going to rename this group to move enemy. We're going to put all this in here. We're going to move this up. And what we are going to test now is we're going to set an event before if direction so if the enemy is facing down, they're considered dead. So let me do a comment. Rename. Do nothing. Enemy is dead. And then we're going to move all of our move logic into the else, and we're going to delete this. And then on hit, when we do this, instead of a live false, what we're going to do is we're going to set, paste an event before. Whoops. I don't know what that was all about. Let's insert an event before, set direction down. Wait, what is... Wait, hold on a second. I did something that I wasn't paying attention to. Let me try it now. Here, let's insert an event before, set direction. So now when we collide with the enemy on the top of its head, we're going to set it to the down position. We can delete this event because we don't need it anymore. Then we're going to decrease the total number of enemies. We're going to set the, we're going to disable our own collision. We're going to, we don't need to do this now. We can disable this event. We're going to make the player bounce. We're going to wait for a second, and then we're going to deactivate ourselves. But before we do that, we also want to, let's do the first thing we do is let's insert an event before, cancel. Actor move cancel. This way, if we're in the process of moving and we collide, we're going to make sure that we cancel that. We're going to set the direction to down. Let's see if this works. Theoretically, what's supposed to happen now is that if we land on a player's head, it's going to set it to the down position. The down position is our death animation, or death frame, and it'll stop it moving. All right, did not stop it moving. Wait, get out of this. Sure, quit the game. I think the problem of what's happening is that because I'm telling the enemy to move to a certain position, we're not able to intercept anything during that move. That's not fun. So the other thing we could do let me look that up for a second. GB Studio. from moving. Halt any current running actor move. This. Oh my god, excuse me. Jeez, I ate this morning. Ability to interrupt a move to on actions. Let me see if this has been solved. How to write a GVM script to use in the GP Studio. I can get GVM is the game engine itself. So GP Studio is the editor to contains a. I'm just seeing if there's anything in here. Yeah, this is not good, but I think that I have some other ways of basically stopping this. Well, I have one other idea of how I want to do it. What we're going to do is we'll try to, I think the next step is going to be when we kill an enemy, we're going to self move cancel. Then we're going to insert an event before, set actor, or actually set actor position. You know what? I wonder if we set the actor's movement speed to 0. Oh, I guess there's no way of doing that, huh? Doesn't like the idea of 0. Insert an event before. Move actor to variable property y. All right, what I want to see now is I want to see if this, calling this move to will override the previous move to. Nope. Is this on the right actor? I mean, this isn't the end of the world. If this is really going to be a big pain in the butt, why is this disable this event? So we are setting the direction to down, self move canceled. Let me see if we move this here. Yeah, this all is a problem with the fact that the enemy, for some reason, continues to move after we crush them. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna come up with a better solution for this. I just don't. I want to actually move on to some other stuff. Although I'm about to like take a break, anyways. I think this is as far as I'm getting on the stream today, because I don't really want to start something new, only to have to end it in a couple minutes. So why don't we do this? I want to actually disable that and see what happens. Yeah, I don't think that cancel. I don't think that cancel is actually happening. Also, I want to, going back here into, I wanted to make the hit area a little taller. Because I want it to be the player can hit the enemy before it goes through it, and see if that will fix that little issue that I saw. All right, I will come back to this a little bit later. I got a bunch of other things I need to do today, so I think my goals of trying to get this game done in 7 days are completely out the window. But anyways, I think that's it for the stream. I will be back tomorrow. I think the only days I can't stream are Tuesday and Friday. So I will be back tomorrow at 9. And thanks for watching.